How y'all doing? It is Filmmakers Lab back again with another episode, another interesting episode. Today we're going to be talking about the lack of diversity in film. And I have two wonderful people here with me today on my panel. I won't be doing any interviews today, but we're definitely going to get into some meat of the system of film and the lack of diversity. I have Tifarah Naava, who I have interviewed before, creative director, and I have filmmaker Brian Green.
Hello.
Say hi to my folks.
Hi, folks.
Do me a favor, Brian. Just tell us
Yes.
a little bit about what you do before we get into it.
I guess the term that I like to use is jack of all trades, master of none. I've floated from one thing to the next. I've produced my own short films and one feature. I've produced shorts for other people. Mm-hmm. I produced pro wrestling. I've done produced and hosted podcasts. I've worked in TV from 2007 till present. Okay. From one community television. I did People TV. I work in a CBS hub now. So it's just bing, bing, bing. I'm all over the place with a lot of different things.
Gotcha.
And nothing that I would just like, hey, I just mastered this one whole deal. So.
Okay. What do you like to do out of those things?
When it's something that I'm doing, I don't want to sound like a selfish prick, but when you're doing something for yourself, of course you like to do that. Mm-hmm. Working with other people is fine when you get the chance to work with people that when you have this.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And every once in a while, and every creative has come across it when you're doing this and that thing, it doesn't quite make the experience as joyful as it could be.
I got you. All right, y'all, we're gonna get into this Daily Beast article.
Please do.
That Tifarah sent me. The perspective that the gentleman Adam Mano, I think his name is, the perspective that he came with this article about HBO Max firing all of these executives, people of color. Basically, what he was saying is that they just don't care.
Right.
I don't know. I don't work there. I've never worked there, so I don't know if they care or not. But, we can say that the general consensus across the board when it comes to the system of filmmaking, Hollywood, so to speak, they really don't care. They don't.
Right.
What was your take on the article, Tifarah?
It was interesting because he spoke to people who were actually let go, that actually worked there.
He did.
So you got to hear it firsthand from those people who was there and hear their experiences. And sad to say that I'm not surprised, but then you kind of are just like disappointed that we are still dealing with this. And I try not to think it's probably going to always be there until this earth is gone, but it's just unfortunate because HBO Max had developed to me a brand where it was more diverse. Mm-hmm. You had all the superhero shows, you had Latinos represented, you had African Americans. It showed the world as a whole that we are multicultural earth, you know what I mean? And then now they are merging with Discovery, and they're now appealing to the what they call Middle America.
Middle America, yeah.
And so now that representation, they don't care about. And so they saying the main choice of this is because of money. And we know at the end of the day, America's about the bottom line, money. But then my thought is, were those particular shows that were mainly diverse driven, were they really the big budget shows on that channel? You know what I'm saying? If you're saying they're trying to bring them out of debt, were those particular shows the ones that were running the debt up for that channel? And it just so happens, it seems like the shows, the content, the writers, the execs were colored people that were majority cut.
They were.
So I just found that a little interesting, what about the other shows? Tell me they're not.
Netflix did the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing with
Yeah.
Netflix. And you know, when you think Netflix, you think diverse.
Yeah.
You think diverse, but just because the programming is diverse doesn't mean that it's diverse in the executive space.
Office, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you read the article?
I did, and I'll say this: TV is very indiscriminate, or studios are very indiscriminate. They always have been. Mm-hmm. I don't want to discount the idea that a lot of diversity was on the chopping block. It probably was an easy solution for them in their world.
That's terrible.
It is terrible, but it's nothing new. This has happened on a couple of different occasions. Depending on what you're talking about, it's been black film, it's been black TV, it's been. At one point, it was rural film. I mean, one of the first major mass cuts in television history was on CBS when they got a new president. This is some years ago, so I'm dating myself.
No,
but for those out there that made no older or classic TV, you might recognize things like a Petticoat Junction or Andy Griffith or Hee Haw or whatever. I'm not going to cuss.
Please don't cuss.
I had to catch myself. But I got to that story to say this. The president came in following that, decided, I don't want to be the rural network. So anything with a tree in it, that was the quote, cut it. It didn't matter what the rating was. Just get rid of it. So, and that was solely based on, I don't want this anymore. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of times where people come in and you're going to bow to the whims of that person, which is unfair.
So that was his...
It was his personal choice. And again, that's happened several times. There was a point where there were superhero shows that were building on TV back in the day, your Spider-Mans, your Captain Americas, your Wonder Womans, your Incredible Hulks. Right. And I think largely that was masked on one station. Same deal. I don't like this. Get rid of it.
Wow.
Cartoons. That happened somewhere in the early 90s. Fox. There's a book called Color by Fox, which I can't remember the person that wrote it, so I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But if you ever read it, it's the same function. Right. Fox used black programming up to a point.
They did.
And once they got what they needed, and then they start to slowly transition out, and after a while, it just turned into, okay, let's make this for everybody, not just this target audience. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, it falls onto the whims of whoever comes in charge and decides, I don't like this anymore. Mm-hmm. You're done. Wow. So it's an unfortunate thing, and it's unfair in some regards. TV and movies can be very, very cold. Yeah. And unfortunately for people of color, you're likely on the front line of that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an easy justification, like, well, nobody watches this, so you're done.
But when they do,
right? How
do they justify that?
Well, like I said, for them, it's an easy justification when you have people who... The common thread had been, well, nobody watches this enough.
Enough, okay.
Such as, because when we get it, we get it in...
enough, though?
I know, that was it. When you get it, you see that we tend to get it in waves.
Right.
So when you have a good black show that's here, then we reproduce it. Yeah. You do it over and over and over again.
Right.
You can go back to the blaxploitation era.
Yeah.
Shaft and Sweetback's Badass Song were like the first versions of that, and those were top of the list.
Right, right.
But then you get, okay, that works, let's make a Superfly. Yeah. Which is also good, but then you're going further down the line. Let's get Sweet Baby Preacher Man. Let's do Truck Turner. Let's do, and it keeps going.
Type of.
It's the same, but you go to diminishing returns once you start feeding that beast over and over and over. Then after a while, it turns into, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
And you can justify it easy then because you've worn it out.
Right.
So, do you think that the wearing it out is something that is happening on purpose?
No, I don't think it's something that's happening on purpose. I think that they believe it's a smart thing to do at the time. Let's milk this while we can.
Oh, okay.
Just
yeah.
It's a trend for right now. It's hot. We're going to take it for all you can before it die out.
Yeah, and then once you get to a particular point, it's like, all right, hey, 2 years ago, this movie made $60 million. Now this sequel is doing 40. It's a drop off. We might not need to do those anymore. Let's just get rid of that.
Right. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're dropping all these gems that I didn't know, but I never even thought about. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it makes sense, but I never even thought about these things.
Well, I was fortunate enough that, I've had some coworkers introduce me to a lot of good things over the years and kind of compile that, which again, I go back to Color by Fox. There's a documentary, which it'll probably hit me later on, that illustrate a lot of those talking points. And when you see it, then you see the pattern kind of happen. Like I say, you got that 70s block where you had a lot of black movies and TV. And then that was done until it was kind of used up.
So they couldn't do it anymore.
And then you just like, we reset the slate. Now, I'm not going to say anything about this person and his after.
What are you talking about?
And his, yeah, there you go. And his after work thing. So I just want to put that out there first. But by the time A Cosby Show came back around, the block had been reset.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's not as if you didn't have black programming before the Cosby Show. You had a Sanford Sun, you had a Good Times, you had a Jefferson's, and that represented like 3 different levels of black.
It did.
You had middle America Sanford Sun, you had lower class income Good Times, you had higher income Jefferson's. And they ran that until it just...
Couldn't run it no more.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they did, for sure. And I get what you're saying when they said, okay, we use this till we can't use it anymore. But then what is happening is they're using it till they can't use it anymore, but there's no replacement.
No, it's not.
There's nothing being replaced. You understand? What do you think, how do you think it's affecting people of color execs when they're looking for another job?
No. You want to start with that?
Because if they're being let go in these instances, what do they do? Where do they go? Are they going to different networks? Are they doing more independent stuff? Like, I'm jumping to that because, like, that, like, you really covered everything that I had here.
Oh, sorry. Did I do that?
But no.
Sorry.
No. It's okay because you're dropping a lot of gems. But what are we doing?
Did you want me to say that?
I think part of it is a lot of people are going independent. Because now it's you don't have that sense of security. You don't have that sense of value with that company, with that channel, with that,
with
what I'm
networks,
saying?
period.
Right.
Yeah.
And so whether it's making money for you now or later, we still need to produce and have this space for us. Point blank, period. We need this space for us. And so then the best thing is, like we always say, like Sway told Kanye, do it yourself. Then you don't have to worry about nobody snatching your rug. You know, the only person that's going to snatch your rug is you.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are doing it independent, and that it's easier said probably than done.
Heck
Because then it's like us working together as the community.
Definitely.
Which sometimes we don't do very well, just keeping it real. So,
Don't laugh, Brian.
it's
Don't laugh.
because at the end of the day,
No, it's so true.
You need a solid team to produce anything.
For sure.
I mean, you could be a woman show, but it's nothing like when you have a team pulling all your skills and resources together and knowledge and, producing something so dope. You know what I mean? And then you want to just stay with those people and work over and over again. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we have to do, because me and Brian was talking not too long ago, they're doing something on the CW too. They've cut a lot of programming, and
Really?
there's man,
Come on, y'all.
Brian, tell you.
Come on, y'all.
Well, we just talked about things repeat, and I just said that years ago they got rid of a lot of superhero shows, and they kind of repeating that process on the CW. For a while there, they were like the superhero network. I mean, you know, you had Flash, you had
Black
Supergirl,
Flash.
you know, you had a
Black Lightning.
Black Lightning, Arrow.
Yes.
And then it just got to a point, it's like, you know, I can't remember if they changed the management, but they're all under CBS Viacom.
Right.
And they do have to kind of abide by certain guidelines, and they got to produce. And then it did get to a point where they didn't want the identity of that to be.
Wow.
And you know.
Well, it's too late.
It is. And
That branded, very branded.
Yes.
it is. And what we have, or what we had, is a lot of networks from the Fox era on have acquired a brand or an identity until Fox was able to shake it off.
Right.
They were
took a minute.
It took them, I'd say, about a good decade. I mean, you really don't have any remnants of that other than The Simpsons.
You're right.
At this
That's true.
point. But as far as, you know, where do they go? Again, I have to use Fox as an example, because what they did is that there were two things that they attacked in trying to get people to their network initially. One, we're going to basically give you free reign to do what it is. I'm not even going to wait to see if your show is successful. I'll give you 26 weeks right up front.
Okay.
So they started, and that was attractive to a lot of people who didn't have, you know, that outlet.
Yeah.
And then you had the other side of the fence where it's like, okay, we want to target this underserved audience because we know they'll watch. Especially when ABC, CBS, the big three are ignoring you. So when we get a South Central, we get a Living Color, we get a True Colors, and that first crop of shows.
Right.
People were, they were tuning in.
it.
They were at the bottom of the ratings well, but it was consistent. It was a fan base that they knew that they'd come back to over and over and over again. I say that to say this, a lot of networks have grown and popped up over the years, whether they be streaming or digital tier or what have you. And that, again, is start to recycle where I can do one of these two things. I can give you the world, hey, you come work for me, and I'm not going to ask any questions about the show. You got 26 weeks right up front, go.
Right.
You know, and how do you turn that down?
Yeah.
You know?
You don't.
So where do those executives go from there? They're probably likely to do things like that because there's new streaming services popping up every day.
Every day.
Well, I just read the female executive, her name, for Power and all the spinoffs.
Oh,
50 Cent. She just penned a deal
Courtney.
with Netflix. Yes, Courtney. She just penned a deal with Netflix last year, 2020, to produce, I think, 4 or 5 content shows. So it's like where you go. But she has that success that HBO Max, again, they had diversity there that gave her. So that gave her the opportunity to, I guess, pick of the litter, so to speak, and Netflix was her best offer to produce her own content. But she did say in her article that she really wants to focus more on the underrepresented and give them more of a platform. And so it's like, even for her with her success and having that deal with Netflix, she knows that underrepresented, that consistency needs to be done. You know, even though you have all this success, we still have this gap. We still have this space that's not truly fulfilled and not as consistent as the middle class America TV show content is always going to be more consistent.
Right.
I think. You know what I mean?
What do you think the effect of these cuts are on the people of color that are still at the networks? That still have to walk in and see
what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, in the article, I think the guy said it was probably at the table, you know, the CEO, the board, the creative team, it's probably one black person.
Yes.
If that. And so you fighting as that one minority, I mean, that's hell.
It is hell. And I think that's brave, because I think I probably would be out the door.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would want to contend with the backlash and everything else that comes with that. That's me personally. I don't know. What would you guys do? What would you do?
I don't know if I would want the burden of it.
Exactly.
But on the other side of it, I might feel like I have to.
Right. Someone has
Because-
to be that person.
Unfortunately, when you don't have the guy there, regardless of whether it's one or 6 or 7 of them, a lot of information gets passed around in these creative things that, when unchecked, it might sound, and I don't want to justify anybody making stupid decisions, but it might sound all right at the time for them. Until you say this in front of somebody else, it's like,
That
Right.
You know, I will never forget Dion Cole, funny guy. Check out his stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
He said this when he was on some interview. I think it was with Conan, because he wrote for Conan at one point.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and he was saying, you know, you have to have a guy in the room that's willing to say,
Yeah.
He said, because, and he was talking to the host, he's like, because y'all was about to say some things that shouldn't have ever been on there. I said, But he's right. As funny as he was trying to make that sound, you need somebody there that's willing to say, no, don't do this. Bad idea.
Right.
Now, whether you get overruled or not, that's a whole different issue.
Right.
say, 'cause-
And whether that person is actually that person that's doing that, we don't know that. You know what I'm saying?
We hope so. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like with, what was it, not too long ago? Was it Forever 21 or Gap or H&M? They had those T-shirts. And they were saying these certain things, and everybody was like, "Who was on the creative board?"
No, you're talking about the one that they had the monkey on the shirt.
Yeah, who was not there to say, "Y'all don't think y'all gonna get some backlash?"
And they had the little black.
And you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like people say they may do that because they know it's going to get attention and they know it's going to sell. So it's like somebody's thinking, well, it's going to give us the attention and the hype we need, and it's going to sell out regardless. And that's our fault. To me, I think that's people's of color's fault. You know what I mean? Because as much as we complain, we go back and support the BS.
We do.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's things like, come on, y'all. Like, for real, don't complain and then support it. Like, really bring back that 50s, 60s Martin Luther King. We're going to shut this down and really ain't going to do nothing.
Well, why do you think it is that people are not?
You know what? As much as I hate to say it, culture, media is influencing people, and we're too much. Martin Luther King said it. As a part of us, we sheep, man. Like, when are we going to have enough where we're not going to just follow the masses? Be it the culture, media, the most popular hip hop artists and all of those. Like, we got to follow what they're doing. Understand, they getting money that you ain't getting.
No
first
doubt.
of all,
No doubt.
you know what I'm saying? They're in a position that you are not, and
Yeah.
and they playing the game at the end of the day. They got to play the game too. You know what I'm saying? We know a little bit about that game.
Yeah,
You got to
we
kind of
do.
play, but at the end of the day, we have
But then
so
when
much
do
more
you stop
power.
playing the game?
You just have to have that. We have more power than even the superstars do, technically.
No, we do.
Because
I agree.
Without us, they ain't who they are.
Yeah.
Truth be told,
Yeah.
like, without us, they are not
Yeah.
who they are.
Yeah.
And we just need to
But I
really
think we have the
understand the
power,
level
too.
of the power we have.
You're right. And I think we have the power too because of platforms like this, because we can get on here and say whatever we want. A lot of them don't have the
No, they have to stay within their guidelines.
they have to stay with, well, they don't have to, but a lot of them do. You know?
They have to because they want that money.
well, you got Issa Rae that don't.
They don't, but
Well, her situation is probably a little
it's
different
a little different, yeah.
than the norm,
Typical people.
because
She's a rarity.
She's
Lisa-
definitely a rarity.
Issa Rae was somebody who was able to make the system come to her rather than the other way around.
She did.
So she's largely in a position where she does not have to if she doesn't want. She already knows what's on the other side of the fence. She can go back to full-on fan support if she chooses to do it.
Right.
So they're gonna, I mean, it's the same concept as you couldn't tell Master P what he could and couldn't do.
Right.
Right.
They had to give him a deal that was going to significantly be better than me sending it out of my trunk.
Definitely.
I'm making thousands of dollars right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So what are you going to offer me? All they wanted was the market that he had full on control of.
Exactly. That's what they want from us all the time.
But as far as what do you do in a situation like that, and you're in a room, or let's say you're the executive and they come up with something ridiculous, you can always say no. I mean, let's put that out. You can, but now the caveat to that is that you got to be willing to not do anything. rather than the thing that you said you wasn't going to do.
Right.
And that doesn't just go with being up there. That goes with any job. You got to be willing not to do anything at all.
Yeah.
Rather than the thing that you said you're not going to do. If you got hired to be a customer service executive, like, hey, take out the trash, and you're like, no, that's not my job. You got to, in that blink of an eye, you got a choice to make.
Yeah, you do.
Do I bow and I take out the trash, or likely they'll just hold this job over my head, do it or else.
Or else, right.
So that was it. You got to be willing to, like, no, I'll walk out this door before I pick up this bag.
Yeah, yeah.
So same thing with being in that creative room. I'm sure somebody did probably say, no,
Right.
these monkeys do not belong on this shirt.
Right.
And somebody just said, well, either it's going on here or you're fired.
Yeah.
All right. Do what you're doing.
Right. I just lost my train of thought because, because, I mean, it's a sad situation. I mean, just the fact that we're sitting here talking about it, you know what I'm saying? It's just a sad situation. How is it going to affect the programming for people of color when they're having these layoffs? I mean, they're not necessarily cutting these shows, but what they're doing is they're putting non-people of color in charge of these people, the shows for us. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you think that that's going to lead to maybe, I hate to use the word, whitewashing?
It's very possible. I mean, I would like to believe, and I'd say I would like to believe that they would largely not put people in there who don't have any sort of connection. I know they do, but that's why I say
They even tell us how to act. Black people don't act like that.
Yeah,
I've heard people tell me that.
Those have been full-on conversations.
That is insane.
That's the whole bit behind the Hollywood Shuffle. Act more jive.
For sure. Yes.
So yeah, but I would like to think that they wouldn't. I know that it does.
Yeah.
But the truth of it is that you're probably never going to get, even with the best of intentions. Let's just say that they had, somebody that you knew personally who was a white guy or white woman, and you knew that they were all right and they were trying to support you, but they can only go so far.
This is true.
Correct.
So it would be like, I have no problem with the LGBT community, but if you hired me to be the showrunner for a LGBT show, it's only so much I can give you.
Right.
Because at a certain point, I'll be like, do we have to have the two guys kissing? I will probably hit my wall at some point.
Your perspective is going to feed in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't give you what you're looking for.
Right.
So it's probably better that you hire somebody that is in line of that rather than getting somebody who's an advocate for it.
I get it.
An advocate is you do want to have your advocates. You always need to have that.
Yeah.
But an advocate can only take you so far in your personal lane.
Yeah, and they're only going to be able to say and do so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I noticed also was that a lot of women were let go.
Yep. Yes.
And why do you think that is?
I think women, Steven Spielberg said this. I think I shared that quote with you. That he was like, every movie that he's produced, anything that he's produced, he's going to have women in the higher positions because they pay attention and they think that in a way that men never do.
Of course.
They will bring a perspective. They will look at details in a certain way that men will never do. And so definitely if you have women of color in there, that's going to take it to a whole nother level. They're going to bring perspectives,
For sure.
details, insights that the American white man is not going to think of.
Right.
And then if there are black men, again, as Brian say, if you're not in that lane, you're only going to be able to hit it so much. So for them to take away the power of women that they have creatively, a lot of showrunners will let go too. It's because HBO was working on, a black woman was doing, was it Batwoman?
Batgirl.
They were producing that. They completely shoved it. The guy came in from Discovery and was like, "No, we ain't doing it. We putting it on a back burner." And they're writing all of this off as taxes.
Yes.
So they're writing everything off as taxes, and it's just like, there needed to be women to see that, and because it was a woman of color who got that role. So now there it is, a woman who was show running that show. Now it's just, not only did the crew, the cast leave that, now she's not there.
Yeah.
Too. So again, like you say, there's another gap, there's another space that's empty that people were looking forward to and we needed to see in this time anyway.
A lot of people would say that that what we're talking about is nonsense, that we're making strides, that there's plenty of women. They start naming off Ava DuVernay, Crystal Clear, but we know.
But I would say, go listen to Viola Davis, because she would say, that's all fine and dandy, but the truth is, when you get down to it, and you go in that office, and you're going to them pitch decks, and you sitting down, it ain't the fact.
Not at all.
We've probably only moved maybe 2%.
I think that's a lot.
It's a lot.
I think it's only 1%.
It's not even. It's not what it really needs to be or
Right.
should be
Right.
compared to everything else. It's still not enough. It's like Beyonce said, for you to have all the success prior, I'm still proving myself every time out the gate.
Yep.
How many times do I have to blow your mind or prove you wrong for me to just have it? Never. It's never going to be enough for us to be successful enough to get, like, it was funny to me. I listened to Keanu Reeves with all the success, I think, with Matrix, it was all these movies, and even Constantine, he wanted to go back in and make another Constantine. Now, you would think Keanu Reeves at that time, the pinnacle of his career at that time, he could just say, yeah, let's do it. They still didn't feel like it was worth doing.
Wow.
So for even people like him to have that pushback, what you think we dealing with?
And it's like, why? Like, why? What's the pushback, What is it?
Yeah, I want to make money. I'm making money.
Exactly.
Like I said, the easy justification for a lot of it is not the mark that we want. I think for the average eye, it's often like, well, they make money, yeah, but they have projections that they're trying to hit.
Right, true.
And so let's use the Wild Wild West, for instance.
Okay.
That was at the height of Will Smith being...
That was a big dud.
That's what I was getting at. It was a big dud for him.
Standard.
Yeah.
Now, if you put that box office on any other person around him at that time, they probably was like, great.
Right.
But because it was Will Smith and he had 3 years running up until that point of massive box office.
Right.
Yeah.
It turned into, what you got? Bad Boys, Independence Day, Men in Black in a row, and then you run into that. It wasn't that it didn't make money. It didn't make enough money for what they wanted for him, and the money that they put behind it.
Behind it, right.
So, it's one of the easiest ways that they're able to, like, well, this isn't working out. The complaints about the DC movies is that's what Batgirl suffered from.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate,
That's terrible.
but they've had such turmoil in that it like I could have walked into that office and probably had the same easy justification, like, well, y'all just need to get rid of all of this stuff because Justice League was terrible and Suicide Squad 1 and 2 was terrible and it didn't do the money and you're barely getting money on this. Once you start doing that, all you need is that one or two people to fall in line with what you're saying. He's right. We probably should. And you got yes men and yes women there that's going to just agree and move along to get on. The best quote I ever heard somebody say as far as that was concerned is like, it's easy to say no.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any problems. If you came pitching something to me and I'm in the studio head, if I told you no, I don't have any problem. My problems begin once I tell you yes.
Yes.
Because now I have to worry about what your box office is, who you're getting in here. Do I feel comfortable with that? Does the studio feel comfortable with that? What's the script? Who wrote this? My list starts going on and on and on. My problems start the second I say yes to you.
Wow.
But my thing is, too, with you saying that, my thing is always, one thing we don't do is we're not introspective. Okay? So
When you talking about black people?
even the execs, they are not. Because my whole thing is, you guys made choices on the DC front.
Yeah.
There were a lot of back and forth. I remember like creative conflicts, people signing up, leaving, writers. It was like a lot going on. So then it's like, well, if it didn't fail, whose fault was that? Did y'all look at why these were continually to fail or not making the money that you did? Did y'all look at to the real reason was that? Because to me, it was some of y'all.
It was some of them. It was studio meddling.
Then go back and look at the people who fought to do it otherwise. And then did you listen to them? So it's then like, are you learning from your mistakes?
I don't think they care.
From that? Because you want to look at it's color people, but no, y'all would have alpha and omega of the whole situation, and then look back and why it didn't go the way.
And that comes back down to that one quote I just said. The problems start once they say yes. Justice League got meddled with ridiculously.
Back and forth.
But they did that under the guise of, you know what? This guy made almost $1 billion off of Avengers. If we get him to come in here, we're guaranteed to make money. Let's just get rid of Zack Snyder. Because Zack wasn't there yet.
Right.
And so whoever made that choice was basically watching himself. I got to watch my own, I got to make sure this thing works. And they've already had complaints leading into that.
Exactly.
Batman versus Superman. They already had complaints leading. So they were just looking, it was like, I got to save this somehow. And on paper, that probably made all the sense in the world. Josh Whedon, Golden Child, made Avengers, got this $1 billion. But he didn't do for that Justice League what he did there.
No.
He walked into the middle of a project. It was like me trying to finish your murder mystery.
Right.
You know? Where am I starting at again? Who's this character? What? How am I supposed to? All right, yeah, whatever. You know, it's me coming in the middle of your story and trying to finish it, but that's what they expected them to do.
Right.
And so that's why I say it all trickles back down to my problem started the second I said yes. Because I got to do, there's always 1,000 people behind me waiting to take my spot.
Of course.
Just right now, you talk about how many people got cut. Who's walking into those spots behind them? There's thousands of people waiting to take those positions.
Yeah.
I finally got it.
Yeah.
So
and we'll
now,
do anything for it.
Yeah, so now I got to do whatever I can to make sure that everything I say is just right.
Right.
I mean, most of those people don't want to be jerks to your project. They don't want to, hey, why don't you hire so-and-so to play this role instead? They in their mind, I'm sure they're looking at, well, let's just say Julia Roberts. I can't think of anybody else right now. Let's just, opposed to Viola, they probably say, well, she's box office. Why don't you get her? You know what I mean? There's some people that buy properties or get a script for you, and you've heard the stories like, hey, we love this whole thing, but why don't we change such and such? Then such and such turns into this, and then this turns into that. And before you know it, it's not your story anymore.
Right. Do you think, so this is my last question, y'all. We're going to wrap this up. No, because I only have a certain amount of time.
Oh, that's fine. I want to apologize to people who, that I look like Casper the Ghost right now. My apologies for my transparent legs.
Don't bring attention to it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that. But anyway.
I'm sorry. I've always been open like that.
Oh, no, you good. We're transparent like your parents. But anyway, what was I going to say? See, Brian, you did it again.
I didn't derailed you.
Yes, it is the second time. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So, as Black people, do you guys think that we need to step it up as far as the quality of our content? And will that even make a difference?
No. I don't think, I know the both of them for me. I think there's enough people out there that have done outstanding work.
Yes, I agree.
Repeatedly.
Yes.
They may not get the access that they need to really get it out, but I mean, every once in a while you get somebody that comes through the cracks. I guess Jordan Peele would probably be the most significant one of the last decade.
But what do we have to do to get that, though?
In his case, he almost made something that, I don't want to say it was impossible to fail, but the expectations on it were low. I mean, it had a great lead off into the world when you do Get Out, But I don't think the expectations on it was like, it's going to make all of this money and it's going to change cinema.
Even though the quality was there.
The quality was there.
You said the expectations were low.
Because there was nothing preceding that. I mean, what all black film horror movie did you have before then that was on that level, that was received as well? And
how would you know unless you put it out there?
well, that's true. That's why I say that's why I said the expectations weren't high.
Yeah, that thinking is
And he was able to, because he had earned his name to a certain degree, and he got out. And once he did, he pretty much changed the path of that. You had a couple of, I don't want to say clones of it, but you had movies that probably would not have been made had it not been for it Get Out.
Yeah.
Like a Breaking In with Gabrielle Union.
Yeah, that's right. Breaking In Gabrielle.
No,
Yeah,
I think Fatal with Hilary Swank, and I forget the.
I think I saw that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And down to the trailer, they even do the same. Let's pick out an old song, let's slow it down, let's give it a spooky tone, and then like all that started with Get Out. So it goes back to the trends start to trickle off of that.
Yeah.
But once you do it, like now, I don't think he being Jordan Peele pronouns, I don't think that he can afford not to succeed because they're expecting him to.
Yeah. And it's funny, he came from comedy.
He did.
Yeah.
But a lot of comedians are able to venture off and do different stuff. They're able to do drama, they're able to do horror.
Stuff. Yeah.
Amazingly.
Yes, for sure.
I think it's the same with the Woman King, like Brian's saying. They only expected it to do $19 million. They weren't even expecting it to be anything because Viola said it took them almost 10 years to get it produced.
Yep.
But it did like what Get Out did. It came in, $2-3 million over what they expected, I think.
I didn't check, but.
And so it was considered a success, but they were looking at it low to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, you're not expecting it.
When have we ever seen a black kind of gladiator warrior film like this that's historical like this outside of back in the day Shaka Zulu? I don't know if I'm making myself old, but like Shaka Zulu, especially with women in it, you know what I mean? So for that to do well, then are we going to see that trend? Are we going to see something continue to come from that? And that probably gave way because Wonder Woman did pretty well.
It was good.
It was great.
Yeah.
And that gave them a little more boost and power to say we could do Woman King.
do it, yeah.
Maybe they're open to receive Woman King, but it still was a fight, and they still expected it to do less.
And
than
those
what
theaters are tiny. When you went to the theaters?
Yeah, it wasn't in their biggest seats.
I was so upset.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of white people in there, so that was good.
Maybe they learned something.
Exactly. Did you see The Woman King?
I haven't seen it yet, but I haven't seen a lot of things in the last 3 months. My schedule is kind of.
Oh no, I ain't gonna put it over your head. But if you get a chance to see it. It's good.
Yeah, check it out.
So it was on my list of to-dos.
For sure. All right, y'all. We're gonna wrap this thing up.
Oh, okay.
I really appreciate y'all coming.
Thank you for having me.
And sitting on my panel and
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you dropped some gems. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
He got some more now. Don't let.
I know he does. I'm gonna bring him back and interview him. Don't even play with me, Brian. You coming back? And Tifarah, you got some stuff coming up as well, and I'm gonna have you back too.
Okay.
Probably next year. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for tuning in to Filmmakers Lab once again. Thank you, my boy LA, for being the best producer ever. Y'all make sure y'all tune in to Ebon Vision. Some of the other shows, all the other shows are really good. You need to check us out. And I appreciate y'all. And that's a wrap.